Okay, now here is a article from a lot of people are covering this right now. Zero Head, Silver Doctors, etc. But a wonderful website. I do find stuff from time to time that is just great. TheEconomicCollapseBlog.com. Michael Snyder. I've mentioned this guy quite a few times. So he has this article from a couple of days ago. Because this is, by the way, the first time I've realized this was even a possibility when I first read this. So, which again is like right now, I'm reading it to you. I sent it myself today to do a video on, which was yesterday. So, I've always was concerned. I was always concerned. December 19th, which again is this coming Monday. Like they may try to sway the electors, and they are, but they need like 35 or 36 or something. Are they going to be able to sway that many? Quite possibly not. But let's say 20 of them flip-flop. That leaves 15. That's a total 35, right? 20 flip-flop. We're left at 15. He's well above where he needs to be to still get the nomination. But an interesting thing happens, I believe, on January the 6th with Congress. And it is so easy, apparently, to nullify certain electors, which then make them not even count. And if they could do that enough to get them down to below the 270 number, in other words, let's find a way to nullify the remaining 15 or the remaining whatever it ends up being, who didn't flip flop. And I read this. I said, this seems like it's quite easy to do. You need one person from the House, one person from the Senate to challenge this, and then they have a little meeting which can last no longer than 2 hours. And if they're in agreement, that elector is null and void. And we're hearing this whole Russians involved, Russia. And some 10 electors are demanding information on the information from this CIA investigation, as if we can trust the CIA, for goodness sakes. And is Congress going to be able to do this particular group, committee or whatever, and say, well, that they brought up great concerns, and for that reason we need to nullify some of these because we don't know if the elections were rigged or not. And for that reason alone, the CIA says it was, we believe them. For that reason, we're going to nullify some of these, as in enough to bring us below 270 and give it to Hillary. Because then, remember, they get to pick. Congress does after it's below 270. So let's read this, because there are very valid points, and we're going to go over what the law states. And you're going to say it's that easy? It's going to be disturbing. Secret agenda. Are they planning to use Russian interference as an excuse to invalidate Trump's election victory? It has been said that nothing happens by accident in politics. That is absolutely true. And I think it was it Nixon or FDR or somebody? Matter of fact, I think I used this question on my political game show channel when I was doing that. And that's what he said. And the quote was, which president said, nothing happens by chance, it's all planned in politics. And it was one of the presidents. So it is clearly no accident that Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, members of the U.S. Senate, and the mainstream media are all buzzing suddenly about Russian hacking and Russian interference in our elections. Over the past 48 hours, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and just about every other major news source in America has been breathlessly telling us that the CIA has concluded that the Russians intervened in the presidential election with the specific goal of helping Donald Trump win. The implication is that if the Russian interference was significant enough, it could have unfairly altered the outcome of the election, and thus Donald Trump's victory was not legitimate. And if his victory was not legitimate, that opens up all sorts of possibilities for the Democrats. For those that have been wondering if the establishment was going to attempt to steal the presidency away from Donald Trump before he can be inaugurated, we now appear to have our answer. There are several ways that this could work, and we'll take it one step at a time. On Friday, we were suddenly assaulted with all sorts of headlines about how the U.S. intelligence community has conducted concluded that the Russians interfered in the election and that they did so with the intention of helping Trump win. The following example comes from CNBC. Quick. Look surprised when I read you this. From CNBC? Yeah. The New York Times reported American intelligence agencies have high confidence. That doesn't mean absolute certainty. High confidence that Russia intervened in the later stages of the 2016 election to help Trump win the presidency. Senior administration officials said the Russian government gave WikiLeaks emails from the Democratic National Committee, among others including Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman John Podesta. The organizations also found evidence that Russia hacked the Republican National Committee's computer systems, but did not release the information. And that's the end of that quote. More specifically, we are being told that it is the CIA that is the primary source of this so-called intelligence. Of course, the public is not being shown a shred of evidence that the Russians were behind any of this. Instead, we were just being told to trust the so-called experts at the CIA. You know, the ones that gave us weapons of mass destruction, and Saddam's gassing his people, Assad in Syria's gassing his people, Libya, Gaddafi's gassing his people. Everybody just gasses their people whenever we need to go and take over. The CIA has concluded that Russia intervened in the 2016 election specifically to help Donald Trump win the presidency, a U.S. official has confirmed to NPR. Before there was confidence about the fact that Russia interfered, the official says. But there was low confidence on what the direction and intentionality of the interference was. Now the CIA have come to the conclusion that Russia was trying to tip the election to Trump. On Sunday, 4 members of the U.S. Senate came forward to express their concerns about Russian interference. 2 of the 4 were Democrats, and the other 2 were Republicans that have been some of the most vocal critics of Donald Trump throughout the election season. I don't think that it is any accident that John Warmonger McCain and Lindsey Warmonger Graham have chosen to be part of this effort. Congress's national security committees have worked diligently to address the complex challenge of cybersecurity, but recent events show that more must be done, said Senator Chuck Schumer, the incoming Senate Democratic leader. Senator John McCain, the Armed Services Committee chairman, fellow Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, and Senator Jack Reed, the top Armed Services Committee Democrat, in a Sunday morning statement. While protecting classified material, we have an obligation to inform the public about recent cyber attacks that have cut to the heart of our free society. Democrats and Republicans must work together and across the jurisdictional line of the Congress to examine these recent incidents thoroughly and devise comprehensive solutions to deter and defend against further cyber attacks. While protecting classified material, in other words, we can't tell you a damn thing. We can tell you. We can't show you a damn thing because we have nothing to show you. It's nonsense like it always is. But under that stamp of national security, we can say, trust us, we've got something. Can't let you look in the box. It's a magical box. Only those of us with a Q level security clearance, super high, can look into this box. The rest of you, you'll just have to take our word for it. And by the way, did I mention we have a Q level security clearance? We must be very trustworthy, very intelligent people to have that clearance. So trust what I tell you, that whatever I tell you is in that box is in there. I'd like to show you. I really want to, but it's classified. What could possibly be classified about a Russian, whatever attempt they used to get in and hack these emails? You've hacked into emails. What is so amazingly high top secret? You know, did they have a spacecraft that can do time travel and they went into the future when the records were available somehow, or when they're writing them, they were a fly on the wall, came back into the future? I mean, no. It's simple hacking. They used Trojan horses, viruses. They had someone on the inside. I mean, you could come up with a number of things and say, well, here's the proof. But if it didn't happen, you don't have any proof. So it becomes, heard it from a friend who Heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around. They're loud. They're out late every weekend. Anyways, that's about it. That's how our CIA gets their intelligence. Either from Site Intelligence Group, privately owned company ran by Jewish lady Rita Kratz, responsible for every Osama bin Laden videotape long after he died, that we know he died, not the 2010 capture nonsense. Fake. It's not even the same guy. It's a makeup artist. Who the hell is this guy? Rings on the wrong hand. This is wrong. That's wrong. But they said that's him, so we're going to roll with it. All the beheadings, Alex Foley, or whatever his name is, James Foley, and all these other, utter nonsense. Who provided the videos? Site Intelligence Group. Like I've always said every time I was doing videos on that crap, I said, guys and girls, we have the most incredibly well-funded, the most funded, highest funded intelligence apparatus on the face of planet Earth. There's not even a close second place. But we got to get that information from privately owned company, from Rita Kratz. She's the go-to person. She gets her stuff from extremist websites where they post these things. Funny, nobody else on the entire internet can get into these extremist websites and get these videos. Nobody can. Even the Russians can't hack in there and get them. But Rita Kratz, I think that's her name, can get them. Jewish Israeli lady. Okay, let me continue if you don't mind. Matter of fact, I'm sure you don't. You're probably saying, damn it, hurry up. And of course, this comes in the heels of Barack Obama ordering all of the intelligence agencies under his command to show him any evidence of Russian interference in the election before he leaves office. According to NBC News, he is insisting that this evidence be delivered to him before January 20th. And let's go back a little bit, just a little bit back in history, as in George Bush time frame, etc. And they needed the intelligence agencies to say weapons of mass destruction. We have evidence of weapons. We need this information. And we found out way later, the intelligence agencies were struggling to come to that conclusion. So the White House had to find a way to just kind of sort of make it up and roll with it. And that's what they did. Okay? It's a fact now, but it wasn't then. So the same group using the same tool, CIA, to tell us something, believe in this story because we're the experts. And you guys pay us, again, we're the highest paid intelligence, apparatus, part of the whole apparatus. Highest paid ever. The whole apparatus, no other country comes close to spending the amount of money we do. And when you really think about it, as you know, the money's going overseas to pay for these wars and arm these rebel groups, which, by the way, Syria, we've now gained back Aleppo. Have a nice day. Put a fork in it, is what they're saying. Oh, oops, uh-oh. So I really can't wait to get this DVD from Lindsey Williams to see if he talks about that. He said previously, way previously, all these countries would go and be given to the Muslim Brotherhood. Then it was going to end in Saudi Arabia. But the one before that was Syria, Assad's Syria. They just gained some major ground back right now. It does not look like we're getting to freaking Saudi Arabia, which he said would cause this massive selling off of U.S. treasuries, because we would be, not even necessarily sell off, but we would either devalue the dollar or somehow devalue the bonds or something of that nature. They would be furious, anyone holding these things, and say, we're not selling you oil anymore. And then breaking news, we have massive oil coming from Alaska. The USS Liberty oil rig is already over there, which Lindsey Williams pointed out, I think, in 2012, and said, while I'm doing this audio interview, this radio interview, go look on your news sites and see if you can find where that thing's at. It's being towed over there right now as we speak. A commercial came. I went on the internet. USS Liberty oil rig. Sure enough, it's the largest oil rig ever created. No kidding. Something you'd need for a massive amount of oil that he said we found in the early 70s that's been sitting there on standby. National security. So I'm wondering what he's going to say in this next video. What's the plan? Is the club somehow giving up? I mean, are they changing their tune? Do they realize they've been defeated, or is it balls to the wall, something else? I don't know. But from the looks of it, with Obama and Hillary and the intelligence and the agencies and the CIA and them, they may not have gotten the memo if the elite are throwing in the towel. And I don't know that they are. I'm just speculating something might be coming from Lindsey Williams. I don't see how they can throw in the towel. How are they going to deal with all this debt? They have to crash the dollar. They have to crash the bonds. I mean, there's no way out of this. So, anyways. So, I'm going to skip a little bit. So why is there such an urgency to this all of a sudden? I need these reports, Obama, by the 20th before I leave off. Couldn't they just begin this review now and have it completed at some point under the Trump administration? Or could it be possible that they need this information so urgently because they want to use it for some political purpose? Some are already suggesting that if there is clear evidence of unfair Russian intervention, that the only reasonable outcome would be to hold another election. In fact, former CIA agent Bob Baer just appeared on CNN. See that? CIA, CNN. Fake story from CIA, fake news agency CNN. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that wonderful? And he stated that if, quote, the evidence is there, I don't see any other way than to vote again. Could you imagine the uproar if that happened? Personally, I think that is not likely to happen. But this issue could be used to sway some electoral college votes on December 19th. We already know that one of Trump's electoral voters has publicly pledged not to vote for him, and he claims that he has other Republican electoral voters that plan on joining him. But even if Trump successfully gets through the electoral college vote, he still has one more hurdle to cover. To get over. On January 6th, a joint session of Congress will meet to count the electoral votes. Most of the time, this is a formality. But this time around, that may not be the case. If at least one member, just one, of the House and at least one member of the Senate submits an objection in writing, electoral votes can potentially be invalidated. The following comes from the official house.gov website. I'm going to link this particular article in the description box for you to read it all in full and follow the links if you may. Since 1887, 3 U.S.C. 15 sets the method for objections to electoral votes. During the joint session, members of Congress may object to individual electoral votes or to state returns as a whole. So let's think about that for a second. They can object to an individual electoral vote or to state returns as a whole. So does that mean, for example, the state of Florida, one congressman, one senator, we're putting this motion or whatever in writing, and here's the reason why we want to invalidate Florida. And whatever happens, whatever reason they give. It can be a nonsensical reason. They just need any reason. And then once that happens, let's see what happens after that, right? An objection must be declared in writing and signed by at least one representative and one senator. In the case of an objection, the joint session recesses and each joint session, okay. I'm going to start this whole sentence over again. In the case of an objection, the joint session recesses and each chamber considers the objection separately in a session which cannot last more than 2 hours, with each member speaking for no more than 5 minutes. After each House votes on whether or not to accept the objection, the joint session reconvenes and both chambers disclose their decisions. If they agree to the objection, the votes in questions are not counted. If either chamber does not agree with the objection, the votes are counted. So Donald Trump has a little phrase, you may have heard of it. drain the swamp. Do you think the Congress members that you and I know that are only, which is most of them, I mean mass majority of most congressmen and senators, Congress members and senators, I'm taking the most money, special interest. I don't care even a little bit about the people. Give me my money is all I care about. And when they hear this man saying, I'm going to drain the swamp, do you think they realize he's talking about me and all of us? Guys, he's talking about term limits on all of us. And he may have the power to not pass some special legislation that you and I know we need to pass and hold that against us unless we agree to add into the bill term limits on us. And I don't know about you, but I don't want term limits. I like this gravy train. So guys, we need to pull together. And even though the reason that we're going to object to this electoral vote for the entire state of Florida or whatever that you, we're doing this for the team. Just agree. No one said the reason had to be a great reason, but the Russian intelligence thing sounds great. However, and here's not even however. So let's assume that, unnamed CIA sources, briefed a few Congress members, and those few Congress members who say, well, I have the clearance to tell you that what they told me is true, and I'll tell you that, but I can't, it's still top secret. So my friends and family on both sides of the aisle, I'm telling you, I got a CIA briefing, and they've discovered that Russia really, because we're talking about the email scandal, but we can determine that these 2 or 3 states were heavily affected by that hacking. Maybe they'll say they actually hacked the voting machine. Oh, and somehow they're going to try to prove this. And for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, we agree that Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, whatever, we're invalidating those 3 states because those were the ones that were definitively hacked. And now he's under 270. We have to now vote for our next president. And since he wants to drain the swamp and put term limits on us, Hillary Clinton, step right up. John Teeter, correct time travel guy. At that point, I'm telling you right now, if this happens as I just described or not, in other words, if Donald Trump just doesn't make it and there's some shenanigans, is all I'm saying. Whatever method they use, if they are successful with this. And Donald Trump does not walk into that White House for I don't care, any reason. Will officially say, as crazy as it might sound to some, I am 100% on board, and I believe every single thing that John Teeter guy said, Mr. Time Travel. And I will then say, which I'll say now, and I've always said this actually, to tell you the truth, so then it doesn't harm me to say it again, I guess, right? It sounds to me like the dates he gave were wrong on purpose. I've always thought about that, But if Donald Trump makes it into the White House, I can't look at that as a quote-unquote problem with the elections in which a civil war stems from. My friend Frank at work, we were just discussing today, lunchtime, that he said, well, we're talking about John Teeter, and I just gave him that example, I said he can't make it. I said if the whole John Teeter thing, is to be true, let's say, and the Civil War starts based off of a problem with the election, which is what John Teeter said, and that this last president, he/she, would be more concerned with the status quo. Again, that says Hillary Clinton. So I said, for that to make sense, Donald Trump can't get in there. It has to be Hillary. That's what's going to cause a civil war. He said, well, wait a minute. The left is very upset about this right now. Maybe it's them who start the civil war. Maybe it's them. And John Teeter is right. In a civil war brews because of the, us versus them and them being the left over this. And I said, that's possible. I said, but when Teeter talked about the enemy, which was the federal government, according to John Teeter, and he said when Russia and China teamed up, nuked us, we fired back, They effectively defeated my enemy, says John Teeter. He said, so our enemy was the same enemy as Russia, the federal government. So I said, Frank, that means it can't be Trump. Trump is good with Putin. The Exxon dude, very good with Putin, that he just picked for Secretary of State. It can't be them. Doesn't make sense. But if Hillary gets in there, not friends with Putin, now we got a problem. I said, that's definitely why I think, should it go that way, one way or the other, it has to go the way where Trump doesn't get it. I said, and by the way, what is the news right now? It's leaning towards Trump not getting in there. They're trying the Electoral College thing on the 19th. There's now this new thing about Congress voting. They can object to it, and all they have to do is get together as Congress. And what side is Congress generally on? Massively the club's side, which is Hillary's side. So all that takes is one of them. One person from the House. One person from the Senate. And that's enough to call the objection. Now, the rest of them, or at least I guess is it a majority or what? Each House votes on whether or not to accept the objection. So, House of Representatives, we're going to vote. Do we accept the objections? The majority of them who don't like Trump, let's assume, says we vote for the objection to honor it. The other part, no, we don't. He won fair and square in our eyes. Well, sorry, majority rules. This is a go time. The entire state of Florida is null and void, or whatever. Again, it's just a thought. But this whole time, and I've been telling you, I cannot shake it. I cannot get rid of it. My whole body tells me history does not say this goes down like this. We have to have been royally screwed over because history says democracy doesn't work, but for only so long, and then it comes crashing down, usually by some kind of anarchy. Donald Trump coming in and fixing things does not go in line with the history books. However, you could argue, yeah, but we have the internet now. We've been able to transfer information back and forth. We've been able to wake each other up. We voted for the right guy this time. We finally got it right. Things aren't written in stone. And I would say that's a very good analysis and a possibility. But the people who have had power all this time, they've had that power for so long, it goes back generations. And they've changed our laws little by little, picking away at all the stuff that keeps us protected, freedoms. Let's get rid of all this stuff. And they're just going to throw all that away to let Trump take over. I don't think so. However, there's a absolute smidgen, if you can see my fingers, this much and no more, of optimism that just maybe the history books can be changed. And Trump will walk in and he's going to do what he said. At least, for goodness sakes, some of what he said. But why are they trying absolutely, desperately, so hard to find any reason to invalidate him? We can't let him in. We can't let him. They are trying so bad right now. Did you see the video with Keith Olbermann having a meltdown over this guy, screaming and yelling, oh, we've got to do something. We have to do something. We can't allow him to walk. They are so desperate. And I hope that, as Webbot said right after the elections, that there would be a little thing that came up where they tried to give it to Hillary, or and then it's just a mere footnote in the pages of history, which, as you know, Jill Stein, I'm following you, recount. Oh, never mind. We thought that was it. Hopefully that was it. But what if this happens? I will say this ain't going to be no little footnote in the history books if it's stolen from him. So we can only wait and see. Not that this is good news, but the only good news is we don't have to wait long. We're going to find out about the Electoral College in a few days, next week, beginning of next week. After that, January 6th, not too awfully far away either, 3 weeks out or so. That's the one that bothers me the most. I never, ever heard about this until I just got my hands on this article. Sure enough, there's the law, and it's real. And we know how again, you're talking to the people who are going to be faced with term limits, who've been riding that gravy train, filling their pockets, career politicians, career liars, and are going to know in advance when this guy's elected, he's going to drain the swamp, and I'm in the swamp. I am Swamp Thing, and my whole family in here, all of us, we're a Swamp Thing family, and we're about to be drained and given term limits, and I don't like that at all. So we will find a reason and just vote yes to make these electoral votes null and void. And then you're going to hear, if this happens like this, I will tell you right now, save this video, because I'll probably forget by that time, because I do 2 freaking videos a day at least. President Obama will come out and give his speech about how this is a democracy and this is how democracy works, and he won the election fair and square, and that's how democracy works. But this side of democracy, the House and Senate have gotten together. They have very valid reasons. We must respect the decisions of our Congress and the rule of law in America, and yet Obama will be coming out with a smile on his face. But the odd thing of this for me is the whole Baba Vanga prophecy thing. Remember that? Where she said, remember she died in 96, so she said this a long time ago. The 44th president will be a black man. First time ever she came out and said that. Sure enough, 44th president, black man. And by the way, she says, he will be the last due to a major economic crisis that occurs. That's what she said. If you want to hear more about what she said, just search YouTube. JSNIP for Baba Vanga. B-A-B-A space V-A-N-G-A. I think I've done 2 or 3 videos on this chick from, a while back, because it was very interesting. She had an 80-something% accuracy rating according to people who've tracked everything she said. That leaves a little margin for us to say, you know what, maybe the 44th president isn't going to be the last one, and Donald Trump's going to walk in there and make it the 45th. But again, history says no, sir. And I'm a big, big, big proponent and fan of history, even though it may not be absolutely perfectly spot on. Boy, oh boy, is it really close. It usually is right. It usually leads you in the right direction. Could this time be different? Maybe. And it's a big maybe. We will wait and see. Take care, my friends.